I, a 33-year-old female, have been with my boyfriend Tom, a 29-year-old male, for almost 2 years now, and things have generally been great between us. He's a foster parent, which I think is admirable, but it's brought a few complications I wasn't exactly prepared for. About 6 weeks ago, he took in a new foster child, Leo, a 9-year-old male who has had a pretty rough start in life. Tom made it clear from the beginning that Leo wouldn't be staying with him long term, just about 6 months to a year while his mom is in hospital. But already it's been a lot to handle. Tom had a boy before this, but he was reunited with his birth family. Tom had had this boy for several years and he was a nice kid, but kept to himself mostly. Leo, on the other hand, is a very demanding kid. I know that might sound harsh, but everything revolves around him. I get that he needs extra attention because of his background, but it's honestly exhausting sometimes. He can be a bit overwhelming with how much he needs, and I feel like my time with Tom has become more about managing Leo's moods than anything else. I don't even live with them, but whenever I'm over, he is constantly wanting to talk to me, show me things, and ask to sit on my lap. I don't get a moment to even think. The thing is, my birthday was last weekend, and Tom had planned this lovely dinner for me at one of my favorite restaurants. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. But then, the day of the meal, Leo's support worker called Tom and said she couldn't take Leo out like she was supposed to because her car broke down. Leo gets taken out once a week for 5 hours, and Tom arranged it to be during the meal. So at the last minute, Tom decided to bring Leo along instead of just asking his mom to have him or something. I don't know. He never asked me to check if I was okay with it. He just showed up with Leo. We had to change the reservation, which meant paying more for a bigger table, and honestly, the whole vibe of the night shifted. Leo was being really fussy, demanding attention, and I just couldn't relax. It felt like the evening became about keeping him entertained rather than celebrating my birthday. I didn't want to be the one to say anything because, well, I know Tom was doing his best, and it wasn't his fault the plans changed. But I couldn't help feeling like it wasn't the birthday I had hoped for. To make matters worse, Tom offered to pay the entire bill since the changes were made because of Leo, but I insisted we split it. I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but deep down, I kind of hoped he'd just sneak off and pay the bill as a surprise for me after everything that I put up with. I don't know, maybe I'm being petty, but the whole situation left me feeling off. I couldn't enjoy myself, and I feel guilty for even thinking like this. I don't want to come off as insensitive because I know Leo's situation isn't easy, but I just feel like Tom doesn't really get how much of an impact it's having on our relationship. It's only been 6 weeks, and I already feel like I'm being squeezed out. If this is going to be the dynamic for the next year, I'm not sure how I'm going to cope. To make it clear, when I said I wanted Tom to drop Leo off at his mother's, I meant Tom's mother, not Leo's. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It doesn't sound like you're compatible or should be dating single fathers. I'm going to be honest. The child doesn't sound like he's a poorly behaved child. He just sounds like a kid. Kids are demanding. And if you wanted him to pay the bill, you shouldn't have insisted on splitting it. It's unfair to expect someone to know what you want, especially if you literally told them to do the opposite thing. I guess he could have asked you if you were okay with him bringing his son to dinner, but if you said no, then the plans probably would have been canceled altogether. His mother is in the hospital. How is she supposed to have him for the night when the whole purpose of the foster care situation is because she's in the hospital? Not to be rude, but you're being a bit immature about this. It's a short-term situation, but if it's not working for you, then it's not working for you. Comment 2. Had it been Tom's biological child, there is a huge likelihood a similar scenario would have occurred. Sitters cancel, some kids need extra attention, etc. Tom is taking on the role of guardian to each child that comes through his doors, and kids, especially foster kids, need to be prioritized in most situations. The child is 9 years old, and all he wants is connection. There are far worse things. I understand wanting your birthday to go a certain way, but I do think you're a little out of touch and insensitive in regards to what fostering entails and how traumatizing it can be. As others have said, I would reflect on the long-term compatibility of you and Tom. Now for the update. Here's the update. So it's been a little over a month since that birthday dinner from hell. Things feel even worse now, if that's even possible. Leo still lives with us because his mom is still in the hospital. Tom says she might be in there for months more. I get that Leo's a kid and needs stability, but I'm honestly not sure how much more of this I can take. Tom is so focused on Leo's needs that our relationship feels like it's taking a back seat. I mean, I get it, I really do, but we were supposed to be a family. He was supposed to be my partner, not just a co-parent. Most evenings, I'm just sitting there with Leo while Tom is working late again. I don't want to completely ignore the kid, but he just wants to play these loud video games. I have to yell at Leo to turn it down just to have a conversation with Tom. Tom's schedule has been crazy busy, so I'm left alone with this kid all the time. I try to engage him in other activities like reading or drawing, but he always wants to do his own thing. I feel like I'm in the way when I do try to play with him or take him somewhere. It's like he's got Tom on a leash and I'm just the annoying person who keeps interrupting them. Last weekend, I went to a family gathering for Thanksgiving at Tom's parents' house. I was hoping it would be a good chance for me to bond with his family. They were warm and welcoming, and I was really glad to see them. But once again, the focus was mostly on Leo. They kept asking me about him and what he liked and how he was adjusting. I felt like I was just an extra in my own life. During dinner, Tom's sister asked what the plans were for Leo's future. I felt totally caught off guard. I just said we were taking it day by day. I didn't want to get into how I felt about the whole situation. Tom's sister then suggested a family outing to a trampoline park. Leo was so excited, but I felt totally sidelined. Honestly, I just wanted to go back to Tom's parents' house and enjoy some good food with his family. We ended up going to the trampoline park and I felt like a babysitter. I was supposed to be his partner, sharing in these moments, not just playing second fiddle. Afterward, I overheard Tom talking to his sister about how they might adopt Leo if his mom was unable to care for him. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I mean, I knew it was a possibility, but hearing them talk about it so casually made it feel so much more real. I tried to talk to Tom about it later and express my concerns, but he brushed me off, saying we need to focus on Leo for now. It feels like there's no room for us, for our relationship, or for our future. Christmas is coming up and I wanted to do something special for just the two of us. I booked a nice dinner at a restaurant that overlooks the city. I was so excited to spend some quality time with him. But then, on the day of the dinner, he told me that Leo's social worker arranged a last-minute outing for him. He couldn't find a sitter, so he insisted that we bring Leo along. I was so upset. We got to the restaurant and Leo was just restless and loud. We were in this nice place and I felt like everyone was staring at us. Tom tried to keep it light and cheerful, so I didn't want to ruin the atmosphere. I just felt so frustrated. On the way home, I snapped. I told him I felt like a third wheel. I told him I missed him and just wanted an evening with my boyfriend. He got defensive and accused me of not caring about Leo's situation. He said I had to understand how hard this was for him too. The argument escalated, and I was so upset I just stormed off to my own apartment. The next day, I decided I needed to confront him about everything. I called him and invited him over for a serious conversation. I just wanted to lay it all out on the table. During the talk, I told him I felt pushed aside and ignored. I said it wasn't just about Leo, but about our future too. I want to know where we fit into all of this. But his reaction was just so dismissive. He said I should be more understanding of Leo's needs. Then, a few days later, Leo accidentally broke this priceless family heirloom that belonged to Tom. He was so furious and blamed me for not keeping a closer eye on him. I just couldn't take it anymore. I decided it was time for me to take a stand and focus on myself. I started making plans to move out. I found an apartment and signed a lease. My plan was to leave while Tom was at work, just to avoid any drama. On the day I was moving out, I left him a note explaining my feelings and why I was making this decision. He found the note after I left and was totally shocked. This has been such a chaotic time for me. I'm ready to focus on myself and my own needs for a change. To answer a few questions, Tom and I have been living together for over a year, and I moved in with him because of his job. He has a stable income, while I'm a freelance graphic designer with a variable income. Our lease was in his name, so I had to move out. I still have a job in his area, so I'm not planning to relocate. I do have some support, but I haven't been able to see my friends and family much due to the situation with Leo. Am I the idiot for snooping on my girlfriend's Instagram and finding out she's still hung up on her ex? To give some background, I am 23 years old and my girlfriend is 22 years old. We have been dating for a little over a year and a half. We have never gotten into any real arguments or had any fights, but there have been some battles with me being insecure about her ex, who she was still in contact with from time to time. I have always suspected she was never truly over him before getting with me. Towards the beginning, she would often FaceTime and text him, and she would also often compare me to him, which I confronted her about, and it stopped, at least to my face. During the early stages, she mentioned having a separate Instagram account which contained her personal thoughts that she only allowed close friends and family to follow. She showed me some of the posts that were talking about me, and it was all good stuff. She said, I cannot follow, but she would let me look at some of it if I asked. I thought nothing of it and went on with life. Fast forward to the past few months, we got an apartment together, and she has been dealing with a lot of depression. The depression was going on the whole time, but it seemed to be getting worse. She is always homesick after moving away from her family, and now they are splitting off to move farther away. She often enters a state where she is sad, shuts down, and doesn't talk about anything. Whenever this happens, after she falls asleep for the night, I always notice her phone buzzing. One day, out of curiosity, I checked it and saw that it was people liking a post on her private account. My curiosity got the best of me and I snooped. There are posts with captions that range from, I keep getting a feeling that I unfortunately know I don't know what I will do without you, to things like, off the record, I've been thinking of you a lot lately. I am assuming this is referring to her ex. I have never said anything about any of it because obviously I am in the wrong for snooping in the first place. But unfortunately, I don't think I regret it because otherwise I would have no idea what her thoughts about our relationship are. It has been a bit since I bothered checking, but I decided to check this morning. There is a slew of posts from the past week that keep mentioning her living in the past, and one from last night that said, "It's better when I pretend it's you." That last bit feels like a tipping point. To know she imagines that I am her ex when we are intimate and feels comfortable enough to humiliate me by notifying all her friends and family of this on her page feels absolutely devastating. Before I get ripped apart by the comments, yes, I know that I am in the wrong for snooping in the first place. Everything that I found doesn't quite justify my actions. Regardless, I do believe it is better to know about it compared to being completely oblivious. How should I approach this? Should I just keep my head down and wait until the lease ends at the start of July? Should I tell her about seeing everything and risk an awkward situation due to the lack of trust in the remaining months of our lease? I don't really want to be intimate with her anymore, and if I go that route, she will definitely know something is up. To add, a lot of people are saying to drop her, and that was already the plan before the post. The main issue would be dealing with the lease. Neither of us really has anywhere else to go at the moment. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I personally would bring up the private Instagram and say, hey, we've been dating long enough. I feel like I should be let into that circle. If she says no, I'd ask to see it. And if she only lets you see certain posts, then you could bring that up as the crux of the issue. The issue is that she isn't letting you see it because she is posting things that would upset you. If she shows you all of the posts, she might be able to provide missing context, or at least show she is open to sharing with you. If you don't think she is over her ex, you don't have to stay. You can also try to work through it if you want to keep the relationship. But a conversation definitely needs to be had. Comment 2. First of all, man, Let me tell you right now, you did nothing wrong by what you call snooping. If your girl has a private Instagram that you are not allowed to check, that's an issue. If she compares you to her ex, that's an issue. You don't have to continue being intimate with her. Tell her right now what happened. Regardless of what she says, stick to your guns and walk away. She's going to try to convince you that she loves you. She'll try to guilt trip you, and she'll try to make you feel like the wrong party. That being said, you are never insecure when a girl brings an ex up. Partners are awful limits when you are in a new relationship. You should have ended things with her a long time ago. Now, for the update. A couple of weeks ago, I found some posts on my GF's private Instagram that showed she still had feelings for her ex. I knew I had to talk to her about them, but I wanted to choose the right moment to do it. So after a long day at work one night, I casually brought it up while we were watching TV. I just kind of mentioned it in passing, hoping to see her reaction without making a huge deal out of it. She laughed it off like it was no big deal, telling me it was just old stuff and that she was totally over her ex. I thought that was the end of it, but things just got worse from there. Her emotional state seemed to get worse after that. She started spending a lot of time in her room by herself, and I just didn't know how to handle the shared space. I felt like I was walking on eggshells around her. I noticed she was texting late at night again, which brought back all those old worries. One weekend, we ended up going to a friend's birthday party together. She was distant the whole time, chatting with other friends and leaving me alone. At one point, I overheard her laughing and mentioning her ex's name, which felt really bad. A week later, we went to a family dinner at my parents' house. My mom asked us about our plans for the future, and my girlfriend gave some vague comments about just enjoying the moment. I could tell my mom was raising her eyebrows at that. After dinner, I needed some fresh air, so I stepped outside. My dad joined me, asking if everything was all right with my girlfriend. I didn't want to worry them, so I just shrugged it off. Later that night, something happened that really upset me. My girlfriend got a text that visibly upset her, and she excused herself to go to the bathroom. I knocked on the door asking if she was okay, but she just told me to leave her alone. This went on for the next few days, with her becoming more and more withdrawn. I noticed she was spending more time on her phone, often leaving the room to talk. I decided to check her phone again while she was in the shower, hoping to find some answers. What I discovered was shocking. She was still in touch with her ex, talking about personal stuff. I confronted her about it after she got out of the shower, pointing out the messages. She denied anything inappropriate, claiming they were just friends. The argument escalated from there, and we ended up yelling at each other, with her accusing me of snooping. I couldn't take it anymore, so I packed a bag and left to stay at a friend's place for a few nights. I needed some space. While I was staying with my friend, I found out that my girlfriend had gone out with her old friends. After a few days, I decided to go home, hoping we could talk things out calmly. When I got home, my girlfriend was waiting for me. She looked anxious and tired. She opened up about how overwhelmed she had been feeling and said she needed some time to sort things out. As time went on, I started noticing her going out more often, usually with new friends. One night, I came home late and found her gone with only a note left behind. The note said she needed to find herself and would be staying with a friend for a while. Edit. Many people are asking about the timeline of events. After I found the posts, I waited a week before casually bringing it up. Things have been uneasy since then, but recently they took a turn for the worse. My girlfriend has been increasingly distant and secretive, and she has started going out more often. The texts from her ex were the final straw, leading to our big argument. After that, she started hanging out with new friends and has been out late several times. Am I the idiot for feeling betrayed after my fiancé tricked me into signing a prenup that leaves me with nothing? I am a 29-year-old woman getting married to my fiancé, who is a 32-year-old man, in 2 weeks. Bob and I have been together for a little over 5 years and engaged for a year. Bob owns 2 companies, one of them is his baby. He built it from the ground up, and it has been a work in progress for about 10 years. He started his company about a year into our relationship, so I have been there since day one. I wasn't super supportive at first, not because I didn't believe in him, but because he was working over 80-hour weeks and I wasn't mentally prepared to be a part of a newer relationship where I barely got to see my partner. Fast forward, I now work for my fiancé. I handle the office administration, payroll, and so on. Shortly after our engagement, Bob mentioned he wants a prenuptial agreement to protect his company. Okay, cool, I totally get it. Fast forward to 2 months ago. After not discussing it since he brought it up last winter, he springs it on me that we're getting one. Okay. It's only 3 months before the wedding and we haven't talked about it, so I was a little annoyed, but whatever. At first, he didn't want to entitle me to any percentage, but we discussed it and worked something out where we were both okay with it. We agreed that the longer we are married, the higher percentage of the company I would be entitled to. Either way, it's still less than what the state marital laws would entitle me to, so I am giving up quite a lot. Bob said we're going to do a prenup now and then do a postnuptial agreement later to include what I am entitled to percentage-wise from the company. I just met with my lawyer today, and the way the prenup is drafted, I get nothing. Basically, once you're married and you sign this, you have no claim, even as a surviving spouse. And what if the postnuptial agreement never happens like he says it's going to? Then I'm stuck. I'm just feeling so worthless and invaluable. Like, you're supposed to be my partner, my husband. What's yours is mine, and mine is yours. This prenup is basically saying, what's yours is yours, and mine is mine. I am so very hurt right now. My meeting was 6 hours ago, and I've been on and off crying all day. I haven't talked to Bob yet because he's been at work all day. To be honest, the state law says I would be entitled to 50% of all marital assets. I am not even asking for near that. But the fact that he's saying, at least in my mind, you're not entitled to anything we build together unless it's specifically in both of our names. And even if I died, you're not entitled to it. Just hit me to my core. I am not sure if he even knows his lawyer put the part in about the elective shares or not, but it's still a lot. What should be a happy time in my life, getting married, I haven't felt this down in a while. There are obviously many more layers to this all, but this is the basic overview. Bob will be home soon, so I plan on talking to him, but I never knew I could be made to feel this worthless. Thanks for reading. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Red flags all around, babe. You need to postpone the wedding, in my humble opinion. Figure out if this is the person you really want in your life. Because I know I wouldn't want to marry someone who's ready to leave me in the cold financially if we divorced. My husband would want to protect me financially even if we divorce. Because he cares about me as a human being. Comment 2. Delay the wedding, let your attorney manage the details. Don't feel worthless. Think of it like this. You carry insurance on your car, not because you think you're going to total it, but if it gets totaled, you're covered. Now for the update, I'm back with another update on my life because apparently I can't stay out of trouble. So it's been about a month since the last big conversation with Bob about the prenup. Spoiler alert, nothing has really changed except my address. The wedding happened, but honestly, it felt more like a formality than a celebration. My friends and family put in so much effort to make it feel special, but with Bob acting like a robot, it was hard to enjoy it. During the ceremony, it was like I was standing next to a mannequin. Bob seemed so distant, focused on his phone more than the vows. I'm not exaggerating when I say he checked his phone at least 5 times while we were supposed to be pledging our undying love. After the honeymoon, which I can barely remember because I was so stressed, Bob returned to work like a good little corporate soldier. Meanwhile, I started the fun task of unpacking our wedding gifts, which honestly felt like a cruel joke. While going through the boxes, I found a letter hidden in one from Bob's parents congratulating him on his successful marriage. I can't even begin to tell you how much that hurt. I was their daughter-in-law for like 2 weeks, and they already considered me a failed project. A few days later, Bob's mother invited us for dinner to celebrate our marriage. I'm not sure why she thought that would be a good idea, but then again, I never understood why they invited us for family dinners when they clearly didn't want me there. During the dinner, Bob was unusually quiet, only responding to questions with short answers. His mom made a toast, expressing how proud she was of Bob for protecting his assets. At that moment, I wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. I knew exactly what she meant, and it made my stomach churn. Later that week, Bob mentioned wanting to go on a weekend trip to his family's cabin without me. Just like that, I was out of the picture again. At the cabin, Bob received a call from a business partner while I was preparing dinner. The conversation lasted longer than expected, and I couldn't help but overhear snippets about investors and expansion. After the call, I asked Bob about the conversation, but he deflected my questions like a skilled politician. His evasiveness sparked my curiosity, so while he was in the shower, I checked his work emails. I know. Trust issues 101. But honestly, can you blame me? What I found was alarming. There were discussions about a potential merger and some mentions of protecting assets from the spouse. That was it. I couldn't hold back any longer. I confronted Bob that night, laying out everything I found like I was making a PowerPoint presentation. Bob reacted defensively, claiming it was just business talk and nothing to worry about. The tension escalated, leading to a heated argument where Bob accused me of being paranoid. The next day, I received a text from Bob's mother inviting me to a family gathering without Bob. That was the last straw for me. During the gathering, she hinted at how Bob has always been protective of his business. I wanted to scream, "Yeah, and look where it got me," but I kept my mouth shut. As the evening progressed, I stumbled upon a conversation between Bob's siblings about a new business venture. They mentioned how the success of the business could lead to more family wealth, but only if Bob remained single. A few days later, Bob announced he was taking on more hours at work, leading to less time together. Isn't that convenient? The more assets he has, the less time he has for his wife. I tried to engage him in conversation about our future, but he seemed uninterested. One Sunday while cleaning, I found an old photo of Bob with a former girlfriend. I know I shouldn't have felt any type of way about it, but I did. I couldn't help but feel like I was competing with a ghost. Bob dismissed my worries, insisting he had moved on and that his past was irrelevant. A month later, Bob announced he was taking a solo trip to a business conference. At that point, it felt like the final straw. I couldn't handle it anymore. So I packed my bags and moved out. I secured a small apartment that feels like a shoebox, but it's mine. Despite the losses, I found a new job and began to rebuild my life. It's not easy, but I'm determined to make it work. I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is to put yourself first, even if it means starting all over again. Edit. A few people have asked why I didn't get a divorce. I can't afford one. The prenup is so airtight that even if I wanted to, I wouldn't get anything from the divorce. Others have asked if the ex-girlfriend was better. She wasn't. I realized that it wasn't about her, but about how invested Bob was in our relationship compared to theirs. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.